We are live. Hello, everybody. This was fun. Everyone enjoyed themselves?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Sometimes it's fun to die.
Thank you,
It was a
everyone.
long time coming for me.
Thank you, everyone in
Oh my
chat, for
gosh.
sticking around. This is our after series, after season. I don't know what we're calling this portion of Outbreak. Since Rag and Bone is coming to an end, this is the end of this portion. Q&A. So thank you all again for sticking around. Thank you, everyone playing. We went a little over on time, but that's totally fine, totally normal. We can take a second. I know this is the end of an era. It's 55 episodes in a row that we knocked out, so over a year's worth of content. So if you need to decompress, tell us how you feel just about this episode and what happened and what it all means for the larger story.
I want to preface by saying that I would like to avoid spoilers.
Yeah.
I'd like to avoid anything that might dip into the story later on. If our audience doesn't already sort of sense it in the air, we have every intention of giving you more of this. It's just that this format and this delivery of Rag and Bone is ending for now as we move on to something very exciting, very large, and I think much more expansive for the universe. But it's going to be a little bit of time before we announce exactly what that is. Just stay tuned to what Hunters is doing, and you're going to find out all that information.
For like 6 people who've already asked in chat about when the next phase is starting, stay glued to all the socials for Hunters. It'll be coming soon. You'll have that announcement soon.
on the social medias, on the Discord. We'll make sure you hear about it.
Yeah, I'm sure by now all of you follow us on Discord, but if you don't, make sure you do that. Mods, if you can drop a Discord link in chat just to be safe.
You know what? I'll do it. I can multitask while we're doing this stuff.
Ugh, that was rough. This is a big ending.
It was good slasher content, though, you know?
I know, right?
I don't know who was probably expecting a continuation of the original story. It was kind of fun to end it last week and let that be known to the cast at least and say, hey, we're going to do something different. And then we dialed the clock way back and we did something that was connected, obviously, but not directly a part of our current timeline. And I really enjoyed that process. Everybody here was super creative with the choices that they made and the characters that they brought to the table.
While everyone in chat is, collecting themselves and is putting together possible questions, keeping in mind that those questions can be for our characters, for the, campaign of Rag and Bone, or for what we went through tonight together, and maybe some more background of those characters. Like, questions can be everything in that ilk. I do have a couple of questions, that I would love to ask people. So like for instance, I'm gonna dip back into a little bit in the campaign and then like a little bit in tonight as well, obviously. So Omega, for instance. Okay, so you played Marcus in our actual campaign. And Marcus had if you could describe Marcus a little bit to us, and then like after you do that, my question is, where do you see Marcus continuing? From the point that we last saw him in the campaign.
Well, I want to first say I want to give a big shout out to Nox, just because he, like, at the end of the day, I was coming in as a guest character to benefit the story that's being told. And when you come in as a guest character, you can flesh them out and make sure that they're full-fledged. But at the end of the day, it's at the for the betterment of the story that's being told with the main cast that we have. So we knew from the jump that he was somebody who was elevating the story and helping the story out. But in that same breath, he still said, but you're still a full-fledged character who has choices. Party be damned. So, we're going to play this out. So it's been really fun to be able to develop this character who really was just supposed to be someone's love interest, honestly, who comes back with a mission. For those who don't know, I played Jamarcus Greaves, who was the former lover of Lampwick back in the day. He is very much, he was a police officer, ACAP, and he is very good at what he does, but at the end of the day, he has not just a heart of gold. He just keeps hope, and he keeps alive the idea that the world can be better. It has to be. But with the events that occurred, and some things have gone down, we kind of discussed it a little bit, but Marcus is willing to go a little more extreme for the ideals that he stands behind. The perfect example, or the perfect way to describe it, as Marquia said actually to me, was he's kind of like Van Helsing now, kind of being a crusader to help and protect and hunt down his ex. And we'll see. I don't know what's next for him. What's next for him is making sure that another settlement or more people are safe from the Romeros and what's going down. And he's going to use his gun as best as possible.
I really respect Omega, and I'm really glad that Omega played this part. And originally, Marcus was an NPC, but I wanted to put the pressure on Lampwick and to have some, like I do with a lot of the characters, I find ways to do this. And Omega is one of my favorite foils to bring in and say, hey, by the way, I want you to do this angle so that it ties directly into the characters. I've done this with other characters. Obviously, we've had some recent ones with Polly Pocket and some other introductions where there were connections that actually played out more about who our characters were, our regular characters, and why they were there. But there was a certain sensitivity around that character and around who that character was pre-fall. And there's a lot of love in my heart right now for the way that was handled, because we wanted to tell a story about that character, about why that character made those choices, knowing the cultural baggage that was kind of around a lot of that, and make the choices that made a difference, but still show that this character was, as misguided as some of those choices might have been, all about what Lampwick is not. Lampwick is not law and order. Lampwick is not structure or trying to make things better or being selfless. In a lot of ways, Lampwick was preying upon Marcus, and Marcus still saw through it and helped to kind of melt Lampwick away a little bit so that there was a genuine relationship there. And when that happened and when the con sort of fell apart, I wanted to see what the remnants of that were afterwards. And that's what Omega stepped into and did an amazing job.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Can I just add? Can I add a little bit to that? Since Omega stepped in as Marcus, and I got to play opposite that dynamic. I really, and this is to everybody, really. I just can't get over the generosity of everybody and the going toe to toe with each other the way we have, the way that you have all like pulled me into has been such a gift. And I know I've said this to people behind the scenes, but now I really want to like say it in front of people that it is. I mean, it really is a gift. We don't, at least for us, especially the core cast, like we don't know what the hell's going on. We just go, and everything that unfolds is really in the moment. And I want to thank you all for that, and Omega, for you to step into a part of the history that unfolded for Lampwick, and for you to invest like your heart and put yourself into it, and it just was so much. Again, just such a gift. So I'm really gushing. It's what makes this type of gaming really fun for me, is that kind of investment. And so thank you, and Sarah, thank you too. Of course, it's been such a treat to have you here,
100%.
again and again and again. And and then calling Lampwick out, putting the pressure on. So I had to actually have the reveal with Achira. I mean.
Yeah. Sarah, you don't know how many times we came close to that reveal. Like literally had time, our characters together in the rain, and they just naturally, it was like a natural instinct for them to just avoid it. Like they didn't want to talk about it. So literally having Polly Pocket pointing at Lampwick like, he's a murderer.
I mean, what a gift to be given as a player, like truly just to be given like this information suitcase that you just get to crack open and let the doves fly out was so fun. So fun. Such a gift. I loved it.
I see a question in chat I'm going to answer right now. I'm not really paying close attention to that. I'm sorry. I'm trying to kind of fall through on this. But Digger and Kusanagi. Alex Ward and Alcuin played two amazing characters that came in and have been a big part of this campaign. Cynthia Marie was another huge supporter of the show. We've had so many great guests that have come through. Janelle, just people who have come and added so much to this for us time and time again. Unfortunately, we don't have Michelle and May with us tonight, both of which had other obligations. But we kind of knew that that was coming, and I feel like it worked out really well. I'm really happy with the way that we have resolved this tonight. I will say that anyone that you haven't seen dead is always potentially still alive. And I think Kusanagi was in pretty bad shape when everyone saw Kusanagi as an NPC last, being tortured by Riggs so that the information about where Blockbuster's hideout was located would just be given to him. Which, at the end of the day, if you watched the previous session, you know that it actually worked out to the betterment of the characters. But at what price did that come to Kusanagi? So if Kusanagi is still alive, I think Kusanagi is going to be very bitter. And I think having somebody that intelligent out in the world angry at you is dangerous.
I just want to give special attention to the chat. As soon as you started talking about the fate of Kusanagi, Alcuin pops up out of nowhere with a listens intently.
So I think not seeing Kusanagi again would be probably a failure of story, but I can't promise anything. But if you do see Kusanagi again, I don't think Kusanagi is going to be as friendly, given everything that Kusanagi has gone through to some of the surviving characters, but also to anyone as a whole. I think that Kusanagi was a James Bond villain in the making and might be a threat in the future. As far as Digger goes, that's a much more uncertain fate because Digger sacrificed himself as far as anyone could see so that Kusanagi and some of the others could live, effectively fighting a bear. And while I really respect the Outbreak Undead rule set, when you roll damage on small things, it can mean an instant kill. And a bear has some really ridiculous bonuses that get added into that. So Digger is possibly more of a long shot, but I'm not going to say no, Digger's not going to return. All I'm going to say is no one knows.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is officially Digger is alive and is a traveling cleric through the zombie apocalypse.
Good.
Is what I'm hearing.
Whatever helps you sleep at night. Yeah, whatever helps you sleep at night.
Well, I mean, we've all really gone through the ringer with everything. Another question I have. Alex, 10-4. Okay, we ran into a lot of just revelations that happened with actually who 10-4 was, as opposed to who, like, my character, Achira, thought that they were and was like working for him all this time. Can you give us like a real clear picture on who 10-4 actually is? And if that's too spoilery, then where you think 10-4 went from the last point we saw him?
Oh, wow. So I'll definitely answer the first part of the question for sure. The second part might be a little spoilery. So since that's probably also the faster answer, let me give kind of the Nox answer. Like, we didn't technically see 10-4 die on screen. What we saw was he dove off of a large building into a river. Now, rivers aren't necessarily very deep. That definitely was a very dangerous maneuver on his part, but we didn't actually see him die on screen. If he did survive it, he probably got messed up pretty bad. But he is kind of a scrappy survivor. So if he managed to make the landing, there is a chance he might have been able to figure something out and get himself to safety. But on the other hand, it's very possible that he may have hit it right there.
You were so lucky on the dice rolls, and I'm sorry. Like, Lampwick was effectively, I thought there was no chance of you surviving after a certain point. I was like, there's no way he's going to make these rolls. But you, like a champion, defeated the curse of roll 20, and you actually managed to roll exceptionally well all the way over the edge of the building, which was sort of a worst case scenario.
The best part was too, I rolled better on roll 20 than I did when we did the live show out at Gen Con, like with actual dice. I was like,
I mean, I'm not doing a conspiracy theory, but Alex is the one who inputs all the characters and the stats in the roll 20. So
JB
it's
might
true.
be onto something.
But as for who 10-4 really is, I mean, we didn't get to explore a lot of his backstory, and that was partially intentional on our part. He puts forth a persona, which I think is kind of what Achira picked up on, and probably even Lampwick and a number of the other survivors early on. I think actually out of all of them, the only one that would have really known what 10-4 was kind of actually like was Abigail, and she didn't make it long enough to reveal anything to the rest of the survivors. He's not necessarily inherently a bad guy. He does actually genuinely want to help. That's why he set up a trade system that can actually benefit everyone in the region. Of course, he is also... He looks at it from a business perspective, though. He's kind of probably the last remaining true capitalist in the post-apocalypse, maybe, at least in this region. So all of the people within the Ender's Line, he kind of looks at as resources to be managed rather than necessarily looking at them as people. They're kind of numbers in the proverbial spreadsheets in his head for getting things from point A to point B, which is why we had those revelations of, he just said, let it burn in regards to an entire community at various points. The community just didn't bring enough to the table for him to feel that any additional effort was put in. But on the flip side, when there was a doctor involved at Grey Ridge, he set up deals and barters and called in favors with all sorts of other major communities to try to bring a defensive there. So he's not necessarily a bad guy, but he's not a good guy either. I kind of look at him as more of like something of an anti-hero in the apocalypse and just kind of a true capitalist at this point.
Such a great character, and we were blessed not only to have you in the middle of the story, but also on the outskirts. Like, we knew what we wanted 10-4 to be, and I've always loved that sort of framing device of having you be a guiding light, like a voice in the darkness of the Rag and Bone universe that's bringing people together. And you're kind of like the superhero of the apocalypse, but the truth of the matter is that there are no heroes. And I think that the revelation that 10-4 was sort of willing to do anything to survive and keep doing what 10-4 was doing, because 10-4 still saw himself as a hero, I believe, that he was willing to let anybody else die so that he could keep doing what he needed to do to help other people survive, which is, in a certain way of thinking, heroic, but also very cowardly.
And this is it's the trolley situation, right?
Yeah.
Like, how many people does he have to kill to try to save everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
There's a question that I'm going to force Nox to answer. Mm-hmm. And it's not really a question, but Phoenix Cost says they want to know more of your thought process on the Romeros, including the dang singing.
Well, the dang singing wasn't really Romeros. It was more of the shepherds who are in some way engaged in this viral outbreak, right? And I think maybe we saw a little bit more of that tonight than we had in the past, and sort of these seeds, like all the way back in 1969. These cults were around, and what were they doing, and why were they involved in this, and how did this actually end up culminating in the end of the world? I also put some really small hints in this game. Every time you clicked a clue, it wasn't a clue for the people here. I said something that gave you a clue as to what might actually be occurring in the world that would allow this to go on. I'm not going to say where those clues are. I'm just going to say that they're there.
Make me rewatch the VOD.
By all means. But as far as the thought process for the Romeros go, I wanted, much true to the name, I wanted to pay homage to the original Night of the Living Dead. George Romero created a black and white movie full of zombies. It was one of the first, not the first, but one of the first that included this. But really it goes back to Last Man on Last Man on Earth, and the idea of this isolation that people would feel if they were surrounded in this sort of situation and trying to survive, which was a lot of the inspiration for Night of the Living Dead. But Romero's are just sort of, like, I was thinking about it. If people in Pittsburgh actually had a zombie outbreak, I think they would call them Romero's, because it feels like appropriate homage to the man who kind of envisioned this sort of apocalypse anyway. They aren't normal, though. They aren't normal zombies. They stop rotting and they become sort of mutations. And they have a lot of attributes that, to me, kind of straddle the line between zombie and ghoul. And there is kind of a difference for me. And so I wanted to create a different type of outbreak and a different type of creature, the Black Bile. If you're curious about all of that, allow me to point you to Drive-Thru RPG. I have been releasing, along with Alex's help, entire supplements about this campaign world, and I've been dropping crazy reveals in these the entire time. In fact, Achira's truth has been in there now for 2 months.
True.
I got a little bit of that in like the last drop. I was pointed towards it. and it took me a second, because I was like reading it. I was like, oh, this is really interesting. Sure, it's not in here, but this is good. And then when I came back to it the second time, I was like, oh wait, she's right there.
It's sneaky in there, because you get like a bunch of different files on different things, and you just get so used to reading that file format, you kind of miss the fact that one of the names is one that you should recognize. yeah,
and it actually colored the penultimate episode for me with like reading that, because one of the things that was in the file was that she portrays herself as a wild one, but we don't think that she is one. So then that's when I was like, oh, okay, so I'm gonna have Achira be like an Angela Bassett ager, where it's just like she can look like she passes for a wild one, not that she's that age. So,
I mean, you've always described her in that way, where she has a kind of an ageless look, you know, and she's done pretty well. And I believe it. I believe that she could.
Yeah, like she really took to the apocalypse like a Swiss Army knife, and it's like Achira embodied a lot of the parts of myself that I don't like, actually. I put into Achira, like her need for other people, and keeping in mind that we did this for a year over pandemic. I had an intense need for people, and that portrayed itself through Achira, but that's not necessarily a good thing to have, because then you'll let people do passes. You won't see who someone really is. And I think that really colored the relationship between Lampwick and Achira, actually, where it like literally took this child, not a child, this wild child who she had bonded with, to literally point at this person and call him a murderer, for her to even like snap out of it. I mean, that's drinking your own Kool-Aid, and that's what Achira was doing.
Some of my favorite moments in this entire campaign have been the turns that Achira has made. All the way back to that first session where you said, fuck it, I'm out of here, and you left the entire group, and you fell asleep on the roof of a house, and you were the first one to see an abomination. Oh, and yeah, like the reveal, like it had the same sort of slasher vibe as what we did tonight, because it was new, and like towards the end we had a lot of the abominations that were being used all at once, so I don't feel like they lost their impact, but like the group was more used to dealing with them. And in horror, whenever you do that, you're diffusing the terror, right? And sometimes the answer isn't more, but it's context. And so the horror really kind of turned inward, but Achira has been integral in this entire campaign to turn the moral heart of the group time and time again, and I'm so thankful for what Marquis has brought to the table.
Thank you.
I know we have some like big questions, but as a guest, I had some like main cast character questions, if you don't mind me asking them. Just as someone who came in like close to the end and saw these characters fully formed as they were, and then got to see a flashback of them at the beginning, made me so curious about some specific things. First question is for Lampwick, because I just want to get inside y'all's brains. I want to know about what led to, I know you talked about viral and like Lampwick slowly becoming this thing, but that's not something that happens overnight. That's not a choice that you make overnight. So what happened in Lampwick's head to justify these things? Was it a bit of a selfless act? Was it towards the connections and friends he'd made along the way? Like, where did that thought process connect to something that he needed to do in order to make it through this world?
Oh man. So I'll try to be really quick with explaining some of
No,
what
it's a long
Lampwick,
question.
some of what his engine is. Lampwick has, even before the apocalypse, had a certain particular way of looking at people, and he was okay with using people. He lacked empathy, but it was selective. He saw people as a means to an end, and a lot of that is because of how life had happened to him, a lot of unfortunate circumstances in his life. And because he was used to doing that, and he kind of was primed in a way to survive the apocalypse, because he was sort of trained for it in this particular way before it even happened. However, there is a selective empathy. There are individuals that he has encountered that he would see as equals, as people, and he would connect to them. I can't describe Lampwick as a lone wolf. He's more of someone who has to have someone or something to be the vessel for whatever little humanity he actually had, and that's pre
Kind of a
apocalypse and
parasite.
post.
Let's be real.
I mean, I don't know. I guess that's one way to look at it. I'm not sure. I mean, I will always defend Lampwick as a good guy and as a hero, and I because that's I'm asked to embody that and humanize that perspective. But that being said, he's a survivor, and there was a crossroads that happened where he needed to convince whether it was sincere or not. Is I don't even know if Lampwick knows. I think that he sometimes can't tell if he's telling the truth or a lie. But he had to convince the shepherds that he was, because he got caught, and he had to convince them that he was actually looking for them all along, and was seeking them out, and they forced him to take like a communion. Basically, that's the first time he actually consumed a piece of something that was probably corrupted, and that began a slow journey towards a kind of transformation. And he ended up getting bit along the way later on too.
That'll do it.
So,
but it didn't immediately kill you.
And it didn't, and it didn't immediately kill me. There was that recognition that this should have killed him or turned him, but there was a resistance there, and it was because of the kind of corrupted piece of flesh that he had eaten early on. And that was a turning point, I think, for Lampwick, because once you feel like your days are numbered, then you start to look at life in a different way. And there was an attachment towards the companions that was established in some capacity. And, I don't want to get too far into explaining his kind of engine, but it's definitely complex. And I don't know if that answers what you were curious about.
No, that was amazing. I love it. And I think it's so interesting that you said selective empathy, because Achira and Lampwick, up until the last half hour of the last episode, were the characters that made it through the entire session, the entire year. Lampwick with what you call selective empathy, and I, as someone who came in kind of at the end and forged a really strong bond with Achira really quickly. Achira, who seems to have overwhelming empathy in spite of what she might wish. And so I always thought it was really interesting that you would say at the beginning, every time in your character description, she says she doesn't need people, but she needs people. And I thought it was just so interesting, what made Achira make that decision every single time? And how do you feel like that uniquely helped her survive to the end? Because in the end, she did.
Yeah, surprisingly. I mean, I did not expect that. I'll be honest. I didn't expect for her to make it to the point that she did. I think what it was because some of the backstory with Achira is that she was basically a killer for hire for in my head I keep on saying the Saints, the Citadel, for the Citadel. Like, they basically in a way broke her and found out that she was really good at doing stealthy things. They broke her pretty early on by making her kill some old people when she was when she'd literally been found half starved in a shipping container, and it was like, oh, look at all this stuff that we have here that you can be here too. Kill them because they're a drain on our resources. If you want to stay here, you kill them. And she did it. They
slowly broke her through actions like that, and that is part of the villainy of the Citadel and sort of the history of the Citadel, because the Citadel has a lot of blood on its hands. But Achira's relation to that, like, those are some of my favorite sessions, was the early sort of turn there. And I think you'd said this to me, Markia, before. You thought that the Citadel was the BBG for the longest time.
Yeah. I thought they were the ones that needed to be taken down. So then coming back around circle to that for her, I thought for sure it's like, well, she needs to find a way to either come to terms with this and get back inside to then do something about it, or do what she does best and burn it all to the ground. You know, she took after her possible father, Alonzo Sampson.
A relative, we don't know who, but a relation of some sort.
Definitely
we don't know.
Related.
1969, you can do the math. Yeah.
Yeah.
Likes hand sides.
Is that spoiler territory, or are we going to keep that down?
I think we should keep it secret. I think we don't know yet. Yeah.
No, but I will say that she knew she had traveled so far down that other road of everybody was disposable, that somebody above her just had to point a finger, and no matter how attached she was, they're gone. That she rebounded in the other way, and she didn't want to have this empathy because it didn't do her any good before. But when we see her in her journeys, she can't help herself.
I love that. Those were my questions. Thank you so much.
I want to go through real quickly and hit some of these chat questions. I'm going to do this round, we're like rapid fire, just so that, like, as the GM, you've got the information, because I want to hear more from the players. But if Blockbuster had survived, how differently would the quest for his safe house had played out? This is a really great question. That's Lawful Geek brought that up. The reason the reason that Blockbuster died is because we had a glitch in Roll20, and Xander demanded that he was going to only fight with his nunchucks and fight a zombie. It was such a kind of like nerd turned superhero type character that we had built, and we thought that it was going to be like, he's going to be like the Jean-Claude Van Damme of this group, and people are going to think that he's a badass, but he turned into the Napoleon Dynamite as he rushed forward into these zombies with some nunchucks, and we couldn't get anything more than 5 degrees of failure off of his rolls. And so time after time, like, I don't bend the rules here. Like, I'm trying to play this as straight as possible out of fairness to the players, but you know, Xander just died horribly.
Poor Xander made it like 3 rounds of combat before he got taken out.
One session.
Blockbuster was originally intended to survive. And so here's the thing. Here's a little secret. When I'm casting people, there's one of 2 places that they fall. They're either going to tie into somebody else's story who's part of what we call the core cast, but I see everybody's core cast when they're here. But I wanted to tether people together. So either somebody was coming in as a pivot for one of the main characters, or somebody was coming in as a leader of another community. Blockbuster was the leader of another community, and it would have been a whole other group that you would have had to potentially fight to get that resource from. But that pathway was left way behind. Wow. And like, we went really hard into the Citadel, we went really hard into the Shepherds and some other places. We barely touched on the Cavalry. Ironheart is still out there. I don't want to get stuck on these things, but Lawful Geek, very good question. How did the Shepherds...
One thing to add to that real quick, one way that the world would be different had Blockbuster survived, I'd be in a lot more videos. Thank you, Roll20, for not making me have to record over and over and over again. I just got to sit back and watch the magic happen. I didn't have to get involved.
There is an entire pathway of secrets and kind of reveals on stuff that haven't been touched because this hasn't really been dealt with. But the group is now at this mall that has a nuclear facility or a bomb shelter underneath it. And so his secret has been revealed. We'll see what that plays out to in the future. But it goes back to some of my favorite Romero references possible. We've had Night of the Living Dead. Now in the future, maybe we can open this up to the dawn. How did the shepherds get a hold of Juniper's body? They had raided the Citadel. We didn't see it on camera, but they had captured not just Juniper. They had taken Juniper's body from the Citadel when they took everybody else that was trapped within the Three Rivers Stadium. So the body was still there. So they got a hold of it, as far as anyone knows. Now, maybe there's somebody inside the Citadel that works for the shepherds, but I'm not going to tell you that. Was the Rag and Bone title a Yeats reference? This is from Jinsey Deffen. That's really smart, and nobody has asked me that ever. If you look up a poem, it's called Desolation of the Circus, or The Circus Animals' Desecration. It is a Yeats poem that is about a circus, and after the circus ends, everybody's walking, or the person whose perspective the poem is being told from is walking around a circus that's over, and all of the stuff that's been lying on the ground, and all of the things that are left behind. And there's a very specific line that references Rag and Bone. And so, yeah, that was a reference. But also, Rag and Bone is a traditional form, and it is the reason that Yeats used it, but it was used in the actual mercantile world. Somebody who was a Rag and Bone salesman was somebody who traveled selling all this ephemera and this little bits of garbage, more or less. So there's a couple of different things, but the Yeats thing was intended. Definitely go read that poem, because it's how I saw humanity after the apocalypse. Like, the circus is over and all these broken, weird things are lying about, and all that we're left with is the imagery of a shattered plaything, right? And then the last one, oh no, the Romero thing I already answered. So that's it. Let's go back over here and talk about characters.
Ooh, yeah, I have a question. I want everyone to answer this. Why did everyone choose these characters to play tonight? You know,
can't answer mine. Mine is spoiler territory.
No, I mean, okay, like basic then, like why play, you know, a brain from Morehouse when previously Marcus was like a bodyguard type, you know, ex-police officer.
Okay, I'll say this. I did not choose for him to be a brain, but I did decide where his brain came from. If I was going to play, because I'm all about, even though we're being cognizant of, you know, keeping real world issues out of games because they don't need to be there, but you also can still have those real life things influence your own character and how you just go about things. Don't have to make it apparent, but make it real. And I'm like, you're telling me he's a pre-med student and he's studying virology and pathogens? He's going to Morehouse. He's going to an HBCU because I said so. Mm-hmm. And guess where Morehouse is? Yeah. In Georgia.
Yeah,
I thought that was interesting.
Perfect, because that's where Chira's from.
So you can figure it out as you like, however you like.
That's all I'll say. Yes, but it was fun to play such a different character. And actually, I realized in my tiredness, in my whatever, I slipped it to Marcus's voice when I was on the phone, but it's whatever. I just
thought you were angry and getting serious. Like, no, I was like, you're letting it happen.
He went full Marcus on accident. But no, it was fun playing such a different character because Marcus is kind, but he's still gruff and kind. He's very much like the dad who will shoot you and then get somebody an ice cream cone a second later. Whereas, like, in comparison, Alonso's just all brain. He's all smarts. He's always thinking about the calculations of everything. But he's also somebody who wants to see everyone else. How to say this? He is very calculated, and he wants to make sure that the folks around him are not on his level, but he's not going to lead them astray. And he's going to do what he can to protect them in the ways that he can. Which is why, like, just like giving the alcohol in the match to Kelly didn't work, Rip, but giving it to
It was
her.
cool though.
Right.
It was a cool moment. It was very cool. And if you'd gotten that role, you would have set the house on fire.
But it was delicious. It was one of those really sad horror moments where you watch it and you're like going for it, and then you watch it go out, and it's that last hope. Good
Yep,
shit.
so
Love it.
good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'll just say that more than anything, he's very calculated, and he'll make a decision that he believes is important in that moment, and he has already gone through it in his head before seconds have any passed before he even says it. So that's where I was sitting with this mysterious, fun character.
You did a great job, and we're super thankful that you were with us. Also, kind of a last-minute ad, too, and I've always been appreciative of your willingness to jump in here and make some stuff happen. We created a lot of stuff. I was going to have the character be an NPC, but I'm really, really glad that you were able to once again embody somebody like that.
Well, next time, I am playing a character that I create.
I am 100% about it, so let's make it happen.
Sarah, why'd you choose Kelly? Like a aspiring chef tonight.
Well, aspiring chef was funnily enough, aspiring chef was just what was on my sheet when I got it.
These were very quickly made characters.
Full disclosure,
so we did have
there wasn't really a character sheet or character archetype already built for Kelly's character, so we're like, what character is the closest? Chef is cool. They know how to cut things.
Food service, it's fine.
Well, to be fair, the real situation is that the information just got to me a little too late. Because behind the scenes, like essentially what the cast has been doing is they'll send over details of what they want out of the character, and then generally throughout the whole show, I've built essentially every single one of the characters that you've seen on screen. From
we're so thankful for that. Yeah, amazingly
appreciate
done.
the hell out of you, Alex.
And I sadly got Sarah's after I had already built them up, and I'm like, well, I think the chef will kind of work for what they wanted.
Yeah, that's fine.
It made the amazing McDonald's reference.
I guess the best way to answer it is like a more general answer of how I like to make my characters, which is that I really have a penchant for playing normal people. And that's not to say that they're not like intelligent or resourceful or, but I think it's very interesting to look into people who are just run of the mill. Like there's not necessarily anything like that would, by looking at them, extricate them from society, because stories don't get told about those people a lot, and I like looking into them. I like talking about them. I think they hold a wide variety of like interest and depth that doesn't get examined a lot. It's why I play wizards so much, because I like looking into characters that didn't have anything special, didn't have anything going on for them, and just went fuck that and decided to like bend the world and make it work the way that they wanted it to, which I think is a very normal human urge kind of thing, to try to make your way in the world is the most normal human thing that you can do. Kelly was just a very normal person who had interests and wants and needs and loved her friends, and I think that's just an interesting thing to go after.
Luis?
Oh yeah. Geez. I don't know how I approach. I kind of just sort of run with whatever comes to mind. Although there is things that I become like kind of fixated on or curious about, and one of the things I often wonder, like, if I were in this like situation, what would I do? And so, at least for Matt, I was immediately when we were told it was taking place in 1969. The first thing I went to was Vietnam War. What was going on around that? And I like to imagine myself in like extreme situations, which is, I guess, the opposite of what Sarah was just saying. Although I do like appreciate that and
you gotta have both.
Yeah, and so I just kind of like latched onto what would have happened if I were alive at that time and I got drafted. What would that have been like to just even ponder? And it's sort of really what I wonder about with any kind of acting job. Like I just kind of wonder if life had happened to me differently and I was suddenly born at this time or in this place or as this person, what would that mean to me to live this? I daydream a lot too, so I just wondered, like, Vietnam War. Wow, what might that be like? So that was really what was behind that. And similar for Lampwick, kind of an investigation of probably something that's dormant somewhere in the recesses of my psyche. But playing pretend helps you kind of wonder what life would have been like if life happened to you differently and it activated a different possibility of you.
It was such a quick session tonight, but I loved the arc that Matt went through. And I had a rule that was behind the scenes, and it was whoever made the first high success search check in the house was going to find the shotgun. There was only one in the entire game. There's only one gun. And you had found it, and I was like, wow, it's perfect that Matt has it, because Matt now is becoming the soldier, right? Is becoming like what he sort of didn't want to become to try to protect the people that he loves. And so you with the shotgun, I was just eating it up as it was happening. And it didn't end well, but it wasn't really meant to. It's a one shot. But you died beautifully, and like I think Matt did come to a fruition of sort of a certain amount of destiny that made sense, right?
It was fun. So that's that. Thank you, Markia, your turn.
Yep.
Yeah. I knew right away who Remy Hot Hands Dunley was.
You clearly did. Yeah.
As soon as I knew that we were doing a one shot with this, and it was happening in 1969, it was like, hey, just give us a character name and a bio. I immediately started I was like, okay, this dude is a second string quarterback. A big old himbo with like heart on his sleeve, big heart, who doesn't have to, and I chose him as a relief from Achira as well, because Achira, with her intense needs and wants and her dark past and like her dark history that she's working through, and it's like I want just this fun loving dude that chooses people and people choose him, kind of a deal. And I really needed that for our last game, and I wanted him to have a future. So I researched like the top majors in the 1960s for football players.
Oh my God.
Nice.
And it was communications. And then I was like, well, he would want something that's stable, but I can't see him behind a computer. So then one of the top majors in the 60s was biomedical engineering. So I turned that into a minor for imaging, because I was like, this dude wants a future. He'll X-ray machines. Because I could see him, instead of doing a used car lot, he'd sell X-ray machines to hospitals. Like, I'm sure, if he had survived.
If he had survived, I think.
If he had survived, that's where he'd be.
And you so dialed into that charisma too.
I loved it.
Like I could see him selling them.
I could see him for sure.
I just want to say, there's no way in heck he didn't do this. So I got to do it, and I want to get permission, at least one of the names for sure. But there's no way in heck he didn't name like some pets that he might have had later on, Remy and Matt. Kelly's being safe for something else.
Oh God.
There's no way in heck. I'm like, the three of his very closest friends died in this place. This is a pivotal moment. I have a question for
real quick,
go ahead.
Because like you were saying with that, I will say, like how Betty was the bat and Betty was the car. I didn't really get it out, but Remy's car was Betty Crocker, but his bat was Betty Boop. Because
nice.
Betty Boop. I never got it out.
I was sort of like stoked for a fight sequence. Like I wanted to see, but at the same time, it also made a lot of sense. Like, well, first of all, 5 degrees of success on the strike, but like you with this like massive football player and the sort of insidious nature of the villains that were around you and how they were attacking you, it made sense that you were the first one to fall, and it sort of like drew a very quick line in the sand as to how this was going down.
Oh, Chris Hemsworth, Cabin in the Woods.
Yep.
It really was.
That was Remy.
I have a question.
Sorry, Omega.
Omega. And because it can't, and I don't apologize for this. And unfortunately, Sarah, I'm leaving you out for just a second.
I'll survive.
In 2 sentences or less, that's all you get. So think about it. How fulfilled do the 5 of you feel now that this show's over? Because from start to finish, you are essentially the 5 survivors of Outbreak Undead. So how fulfilled do you feel now? Because it's always like, I'm a stage performer. In that last show, I'm never sad. I'm sad, but I'm never emotional, like in duress. There's a relief, there's a proudness, but there's always something. And I want to like, how does it feel for you for it to be finite? Even though there's potential stuff happening in the future, this iteration, this current story, slightly is done.
I mean, you said
I'd like to hear from JB.
2 sentences only, which is what's throwing me. So
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was going to say one sentence, but
I'm gonna boil this down to
two.
like caveman talk. The first one is the story that needed to get told got told, and the second one is you all literally watched me cry at the beginning of this chat. So that's how I feel about about this coming to a close. That was 55 weeks. I mean, it's what kept a lot of us going through the pandemic, and it's what kept a lot of us grounded and sane, and now we just have to figure out what's going to happen with the next chapter. So I said my 2 sentences. I'm just going to keep elaborating on it until someone else gives their answer.
Honored, amazed, and proud is kind of my feeling at this point. It's been an absolute honor just having the opportunity to work with this cast and crew week in and week out, and the plethora of amazing side support that we've gotten from like yourself, Critical Bard, Sarah, and a whole host of additional people that have come along the way and helped us out with this. Amazed that, because with tabletop RPGs, the biggest thing is that you usually don't get that nice conclusive ending. A lot of times campaigns just taper off, and we got to present a campaign that actually had a start, middle, end, and it felt like a proper ending as well. And I'm proud of the fact that we got to do that, and that we grew an amazing audience. Like, we still, like, just looking at my moderator screens here, we've still got 172 people kicking it with us well after hours on what we would normally do, just riding it out with us, and that's amazing. Yeah.
I'm going to say something. I'm going to say something, and I'm going to let everybody else get in, because that's like I've got 2 sentences, and it's not really hard for me to find those 2 sentences. I'm staggered by the talent that I've been surrounded with. I'm thankful, and I'm looking forward to the road ahead.
You did better than me. I rambled.
I was going to say, Nox found the question and stuck to it. 2 sentences, that's it.
I'm going to have no punctuation in mine. I do feel fulfilled, and I feel hungry for more, and I feel like I'm... this is still all 1 sentence. I feel like I'm holding on to water while it slips through my fingers, but that I'm going to, like, keep whatever wet is left. I don't know how else to explain it, but it's like, it's what I love about story. I'm always sad at the end of a story, or what feels like the end of a story, and it's why I don't read books anymore, because I get fucking depressed after I finish reading a book because I miss the characters. And so I don't fucking read. But this kind of hits at a similar place where like I just really love the journey, and I am holding on to the water, and I'm thankful for what it was. So that's that.
Yeah. I got so emotional right now. Oh my God, it's such a good question.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Before this isn't the only show that I've done where it has been a long campaign. Before this, it's amazing how many channels only see me as a one-shot kind of player and things that I don't know, something about me or the way that I play that says that I don't deserve, or maybe will hold the attention of, or maybe I don't fit in the world as anything more than a guest star. So to be a part of this, where I not only got to be part of this world and to explore my character and be able to have these twists and turns and have inside jokes with like the community and everything, and I get all of these other channels that like have people that are on there that get to be on there that are just immediately chosen to just be on there. And I'm not going to say never, because I did have a long run with Hyper RPG for 10 candles. We did like 10 months of 10 candles. But I couldn't even tell you how many things that I've guest spotted. I can count on one hand how many things that I've been a long-term character in, and I wouldn't use all my fingers. This fulfilled so much for me for that. To be able to do this with these people, with our guests, with Nox, with hunters, with this community. And also it makes me feel, isn't it a damn shame how many years I've been doing this, and this is the first time that I feel this way. But also, I'm so glad I got to feel this way.
Can I just say that I'm so glad that you didn't let that dissuade you from continuing, because I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you stuck it out. It wouldn't have been the same without you if you had given up. And
as far as I'm concerned, every single one of the players that I brought into this game has a home in any game that I run whenever I can possibly make it happen. Everyone has gone above and beyond and has been so available and open that this game wouldn't be a shadow of what it was without that truth and that willingness to trust all of us, not just me, but the game and each other. It was lightning in a bottle.
I just want you to know, again, not getting into territory, but I was sent a message this morning about playing a certain character. And when I found out something, the first sentence I sent back was, "Oh shit, yo, bet." And I wouldn't have done that if it was for probably any other character. And the connection that potentially it meant. And I say that because you have created such a badass fucking individual in this community, in this game, in this space. And it was just honestly an honor. I mean, we worked together when we did the other Outbreak one shot. So I knew what you could do, but coming back into this, I was like, oh, why have I not done more with her? Yes, it's a shower Marquia moment, and I don't care. But seriously, you have done so much, and the world should judge itself for not having you on more. Period.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to take that. Thank you. Oh.
And not to be selfish, but we would like to keep you.
Yeah.
Whatever this ends up, whatever the next chapter is with things, Yeah, no, I'm in. Y'all got me.
It's a good home here.
Yeah, it is. It's a good recharging home. It's exactly what you need when you need it.
I'm gonna take a second to one, try to lighten the mood a little bit, and two, bring it back to tonight's episode. Markia, Luis, you both are the two people who managed to survive every single thing that was thrown at you over and over and over again. But you were the first two taken out tonight. How did that feel?
Fucking roll 20, man.
Yeah.
This is roll 20. Roll 20 trying to kill people up in here.
It's kind of
my
fun.
dice hated you too.
Yeah.
My dice, because I roll on a tray here, and they're not forgiving either.
Yeah. It's fun to die. Pretend die.
It was the perfect order too.
Yeah.
It was literally the perfect order.
It was like reverse.
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of was surprised I survived as long as I did. I was lucky early on with some good successes, and I was like, oh, dang, I'm sticking around for longer than I thought. But, I mean, I don't know if you agree, but in a one shot, it changes, it gives you permission to like take risks, I guess. But then I was surprised that I was still like, I know this is a one shot, but I really am trying to live through it.
You should. That was the right way to approach it.
Yeah.
I mean,
and not make a joke of it. You know what I mean? Like, even if there's like moments of humor, it's still like, you're still in a thing that has stakes, and you just get swept up into that. So it sucked.
I let the dice decide things, and when I saw that Remy, after 2 different rolls, like adding back in the athletic gear, got the same exact number, and it was 3 failures for a search, I was like, yeah, so Remy's going upstairs by himself.
Not really paying attention to where he's going, not really seeing anything.
What the dice say, and you always follow what the dice say.
You do. And I want to piggyback off that too, because my first 2 rolls in this game was a critical success and a critical failure, which told me off the bat this was going to be a game. I'm gonna be right back.
That's brilliant. I'll go ahead and get another one of the chat's questions in here real quick. So this one's from the Lawful Geek. For everyone, what went through your heads every time Lampwick narrowly avoided death through the power of sheer bullshit? And I'll get my answer out of the way real quick, because for me it was real simple. I was proud that I did exactly what Luis asked of his character, mechanically speaking, because I designed that character to be a talker. I knew that if the thing that I handed him was, if he got into any conflicts or anything like that, it was over, and he had to talk his way out of everything, and that's how it was designed. And it worked exactly as I was hoping it was going to work, and I hope it was everything that Luis was hoping for from that character. JB, what about you from behind the scenes?
Right, tell us, JB,
from behind,
because you were sitting there, you were seeing this and every roll that he did, and you're sitting there looking at the numbers. Tell us.
The one thing I'm a little disappointed about with how we have our Twitch set up is that we don't have a negative counter for an emote, because every time Luis would throw like 4 degrees of failure, I'd wanted to spam it in chat, because I knew the second I did, he was gonna turn around and be like, oh, that's actually 4 degrees of success. I don't know what kind of bullshit magic that I managed to come up with, but yeah, that guy who's trying to eat me right now, I rolled really low, and now he's my best friend, and we go strolling through the park and sing. Like, it doesn't make any sense how he managed to do it, but like sitting here from the behind the scenes and getting to see the actual numbers, the actual rolls, and not even just like while it's going on, but like before we have an episode, like we plan out. I mean, Nox plans out, but we get a little bit of insight about how he planned out what's going to happen and how he sees it going. And every time I'm like, well, Luis is dead. He's finally dead. and never does he let Nox get that like little satisfaction.
To be clear, JB's talking about Alex, JB, and I. We have meetings where we talk about the players have no idea coming.
We don't disclose anything to the players. In fact, we have a meeting the morning of every time we have a show, and Marquis is in that meeting because they're in marketing. They work for hunters. So they come in, they get their marketing spiel out of the way, and every time, like as soon as they disconnect, we're like, okay, cool, now we can actually talk about how we're going to torture these characters today.
I mean, like we're not exactly rubbing our hands together, but there's definitely a little bit of that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
There's a reason why I called Luis's character Bullshit Jesus, because it was just like it was so apparent to me after an episode where he I even forget the episode. He got out of freaking something with like 5 degrees of success. I was like, how is this? Why does Roll20 love him? I'm like, oh, because Roll20's drank, the religion Kool-Aid to Bullshit Jesus.
So, to be fair, it was the only thing Lampwick was really good at. You can go back and count how many times he actually landed shots, and it was more often than not he would miss shots. And I think one of the first times I actually tried to use my spear, I ended up failing so bad that I impaled myself.
You impaled yourself, yeah. That was back at it was at Grey Ridge. You
it was
actually
at Grey
stabbed
Ridge.
yourself because you did so badly. It was
So
like 5
bad.
degrees of failure. You didn't have any competency left. You were really in a bad situation. That was the same fight that you tried to bite your own fingers off and throw them at the zombies.
Oh my god.
And instead, because I knew one of the first things I did when we got through Grey Ridge is I clocked someone that I could kind of manipulate into my graces. And that was the person when we were trying to get away from the Horde, and Achira saw it. When I was stumbling.
You threw
Literally saw
Chuckwagon into a Horde.
Sarah,
buy myself
literally
time.
Achira saw Lampwick did this and did not put 2 and 2 together about Lampwick not being a good guy. This is what I'm talking
I love
about.
it.
Not
Well, the thing that came to me was that, I mean, you can say that your character's good at bullshitting, good at talking as much as you want, but then you yourself as the player has to be good at talking. And that was the thing that hit me so much in that episode, that session where Polly was like, murderer, was the fact that Luis, you still did such a fantastic job playing that part and just being like, no, I am still here to help you, and I'm going to explain exactly why, and you all are going to believe me. It was beautiful, amazing role play.
It's a little bit of torture.
The dice go behind it, but you do too.
It's a little torture, but that's one thing I love about Nox's playstyle is Luis rolls a 5, 5 degrees of success, and he's just like, oh cool, you talk your way out of it? Do it. Go ahead.
Oh,
how do you explain to a zombie that you're
DMing style? Because I love bullshitting my way out of shit too. It's fun.
And watching you every single time is glorious because you always do it. You always manage to talk your way out.
With Omega though, when
we talk about Lampwick.
when Marcus was brought in, we intentionally built
a foil.
Yes, as far as what Marcus can do, Marcus is really good at clocking bullshit and seeing past it and being able to size somebody up and see the truth, which is so dangerous to Lampwick, but so useful if Lampwick can turn it into his own uses. So it was kind of perfect.
That was such a pain in the ass for me, by the way.
That was the mandate. The mandate was make the anti-Lampwick.
I had to figure out from a mechanical perspective how to counter what I had done previously with Luis's character.
Expunge what thou hath wrought.
Well, honestly, having that, and I forgot what the skill is, the diplomacy skills. Mm-hmm. For people who don't realize, having Weedle, I basically, if I succeed, it's no less than 4 successes.
Yep.
Period.
It's the equivalent of what I had. I think your detect motives was higher than my other diplomacy skills.
This is one of the reasons why Achira lasted for so long, because I locked onto location hazards. It's called Acumen for anyone who's building their Outbreak Undead. And I pumped that up until it hit a tier 3, and I had efficiency of a tier 4. So whenever we get competency points, then I would 3 and 4, 3 and 3, something like that. So whenever we got competency points, we put that in. Whenever there was a location hazard, I would get some extra ones. And I pumped up her stealth because she was a backstabber. She was literally the last resort. You point to it and you say, "Get that thing, kill that," and she'd have to go and do it because she was compelled. So. Yeah.
You have to know with Outbreak, okay? You have to accept a few things. First of all, the system is brutal. It's made to be a meat grinder.
Yes.
And once you accept that and you realize that characters aren't the point, the story's the point. And what you want to do is accept the fact that unlike other games, you're going to play a couple characters in a campaign and just embrace that, enjoy it, love it, move forward. But when you create your character, you need to understand what they're good at and realize that this isn't like Dungeons and Dragons where you might be a wizard and able to do things and good. No, you have to focus on a set of skills and then just really know that, like most people in the real world, there's only one or two things that somebody's really good at. And whatever that is, you lean into that and you're going to have a much easier time than trying to be a jack of all trades or a Swiss Army knife or, multi-classing or whatever that might be in the Outbreak world. You can't really do that. You have to know your skills and your abilities and really use the heck out of them.
That's honestly why I really enjoyed Marcus, because I do mostly play D&D because I love that game, but it was nice to be like, no, this man is two things: intuition and shooting you with his gun, and he's really good at both. Everything else, but those two, yeah. So it was just great to be able to lean into those moments and lean into where I know he's going to get the most amount of information and using those skills in different ways. Cause I think that's how this game works too. It's like how Nox just let me kill somebody with my first aid. I'll say this. He has piercing, Pierce as a really good, in his melee, stuff. He's really good at that. That's why he has that small little scalpel. He wouldn't have a knife. He wouldn't have like a bowie knife or anything like that. That's just not what he is. But he would have something like that. So I was like, yeah, he'll use that. So he was like, use first aid. I'm like, thank you, because it's better.
Well, because it was, and because of your role play, I felt like that was the right choice. It was the right choice because you're doing this as a medical student, not as a knife fighter. I want to quickly say there's one more question, and then we probably should wrap this up. As amazing as this has been, there's one question. I have a question for JB and Alex from behind the scenes perspective. What were your favorite moments in R&B? And that's from GM Table Tales.
Oh man. So I think I kind of already answered this one a little bit earlier on another question. Actually, I think it was namely the question that you asked, Omega. It's the opportunity that I've had to interact with and work with all of the people that I've gotten to over the course of this show has been my absolute favorite thing about it. I've always kind of been I've been in the tabletop industry now for about 5 years, but I've always kind of, up until semi-recently, maintained kind of a behind the scenes, not really in the forefront, and really honestly not even interacting with a ton of other people in the space, even outside of just the small little group at Hunters. And this experience has kind of opened me up to becoming essentially somewhat friends and at least acquaintances in some other cases with so many people that I respect and admire. And that's been just amazing for me. So yeah, the friendships and people I've met along the way, 100%.
I mean, I don't know how you're supposed to ask me to follow that up.
He's like that one time Lampwick fell down.
The money. Anyway, bye guys. I've told this story a couple times. I don't know if I've ever done it. I mean, I haven't done it because this is the first time we've really been able to talk directly to the audience here. But I've done it in a Q&A panel thing we did for a con a year and a half ago. But I was brought here through sheer luck and happenstance. I was in sales and I sold Ivan Van Norman a bed. And that's what led to us building a relationship and me working for him. and I worked with Nox and I worked with Alex, and we put together the streaming arm of this. So the biggest thing is watching all of that evolve, because we literally started with nothing. Yes, and you, but you were a player at first. So
no, I was
until
a Twitch producer.
Right.
I was a creator.
But watching all of this like come together from nothing, we had nothing. We went in there saying, we want to make something happen. We don't have a structure for it. We don't have like a long-term idea of how this is going to work, but we have to make it work. And all of us, Marquia included.
Yeah, Hunter's Gathering season 1.
Like nose to the grindstone, made it work, and we put in blood, sweat, tears, and every single week we managed to come up and do this show and build this audience and like make the best friends ever. But to answer it from a purely I have no emotions, this is me taking a step back, I don't care about the rest of you guys comment. The biggest part for me was watching everyone in chat reveal all the answers of what's going to happen in the story without them knowing that they're revealing the answers of what's going to happen in the story. Like them dropping, I couldn't tell you, I could not count on my hands, toes, everything, how many times someone in chat said, "Oh, this would be funny if this happened," and then by the time it actually happened, it blew their minds. The people who saw it coming or guessed it was going to come, like over and over and over again. Tonight especially, because you'd have people who would hear one little thing and I'd be like, "Oh, you really got to pay attention to this episode. Like this one's going to blow your mind. This one's going to change it." And even like Marquia's face, the second they gave Alonzo a last name, like the mouth drop, everyone in chat was just like, "Hold on, Samson, what?" I didn't know if Nox was going to like verbalize it and like make sure everyone knew what was happening. Like we snuck it in. It's in the credits also. So if just in case you didn't actually put it in there, like we were going to make sure there was some way for that information to get put across.
I had a plan, and it's okay the DM did something, but I had a plan. It was going to get out.
So lots of redundancies, but that's so beautiful.
Sarah got to reveal that just like she revealed lamp wigs.
Wow.
I just keep getting these
big revealers.
At the reveals. You were the one that was searching that area, so you found the wallet.
Nice.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm no. I'm here.
I thought I was gonna say something.
Oh no.
If we're going to end, I wanted to end with Nox saying, as the DM, what do you want those who have never watched the show, now that it has a start and a somewhat end, what do you want them to get out of it? What is your hope that they take from this story that's been told on Twitch?
Well, I think that's just it. I think you already said it. It's about hope, and it's about so much of this story is what we were going through. We lived through a pandemic. We faced a viral outbreak that could have ended our society. And rather than shy away from that or be cowardly, we looked into ourselves and we dredged forward a story and we shared it. And it wasn't always easy and it wasn't always comfortable. And we learned a lot about our world and about what we thought was an evolved culture. And we learned about each other and we got to tell this story together and grow. And I hope that when people look back at Rag and Bone and they say, the Hunters Entertainment crew, they made this campaign, it's a zombie survival horror. I hope that the zombie survival horror is there and that they're frightened and that we scare them a little. But I also hope that they see past that to what's really important. And I think that's the heart.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for telling an amazing story, and thank you for leading an amazing story and allowing us players to tell something that I think a lot of people might need.
I hope so.
And I wanted to just say one quick thing, just to thank the audience. Thank you for coming along with us. It's been so meaningful to share it with you and to have your input and your engagement. One of the things that makes this one of my favorite forms of entertainment is that it's a hybrid of, it is entertainment, but it's also, we're playing a game. We're playing a game that that you're participating in, and that you can play yourself the next day, and that kind of immediacy with you as co-conspirators and players, and being able to immerse yourself in a world that we were just immersed in is, I think, really magical, and I think really links us back to the most ancient forms of storytelling, which is us just sitting around a campfire doing it together. So
Yeah.
thanks for being a part of it.
With you, you've made it a community, and that's what it is. And I'm so grateful and thankful to see these usernames, you know, week after week, and us having our inside jokes, and us hearing JB say, "Oh, you got that extra competency point because the community came through." It was Alex's mom mainly, but it was like
Alex's mom always came in at the last minute and made those last, because there was push through the whole week and the community's been great, but Alex's mom really wants to make my job difficult.
I just want to remind everyone watching that whenever the episode starts and it has the subscription goal in the bottom corner and it's blank, that is because right before the episode started, every single time without fail, right before the episode started, we got a wave of subscriptions, gift subs, you know, whatever, that ended up going towards being a bonus competency point for everyone. We didn't ignore all of those, but like 9 times out of 10, it would be Alex's mom who wouldn't finish that off, and we're like, I mean, thank you. She is the channel's mother at this point. Like, she is not Alex's mom. She is Hunter's mom. But
yeah,
Real
username Alex Red Eye Mom.
Yeah.
Really quickly, we have
Alex
another group of people to thank, and I don't want to leave them out. Foreteller has created the
Yes.
Scry program in the app, and Alex has worked very closely with them. Get into the Discord. Let us know what you think. We want to review this, but you have not seen the last of this. You've not seen the last of this show. You've not seen the last of the Scry. Hopefully, you got a little taste of that tonight. Hopefully, you saw some of the new features that were put into there. But overall, as time progresses, you're going to learn more about the apocalypse, but you're also going to be a bigger part of it. So we're going to see where we end up and how this all plays out, but don't count us out yet. The campaign is over, but there's something coming, and it's right behind you.
Yeah, don't rest too easy, y'all. You get a little bit of breathing space, you know, because Halloween and whatnot. But we're coming back for y'all.
And yeah, I just want to echo what Knox said there real quick. It's seriously, with Foreteller and the Scry application, it's been an absolute treat working on that and bringing a new form of interactivity to online gaming and what the audience is able to do in regards to that participation. And like Knox was saying, even the sneak peek tonight, like, it was just it's an early sneak peek. The plans for that are not even remotely done, even with as far as it's come. So definitely be on the lookout for a lot of cool things with that in the future.
We've kept you all 2 hours beyond our end point. So
I was just going to say, just a shout out really quickly to Melee and Michelle, because they're a part of this, just like everyone is.
Of course.
That's it.
Yes.
we couldn't have done it without them, and we're looking forward to hearing from them in the near future. You've not any of the faces that you've seen here, you will see again. I promise you that.
also, a quick shout out to our wonderful Undead moderators, like we say at the beginning of every show. They're in the chat still. Again, we are 2 hours over, and they don't let up. They're amazing. I know Alex and I also try to mod, but we couldn't do it without them. So
Not even a little bit.
No, amazing community, so much support, and we're so grateful.
Well, this has been a long journey. Again, we're unfortunately saying we're wrapping for the final time on Rag and Bone for this series. I just want to give a quick round of applause for all of our players here tonight, for Knox for telling such an amazing story. I'm going to give myself a little bit of shout out too, but also Alex for all of the work we do behind the scenes. Again, everyone who joined us tonight, thank you so much. There's still hundreds of you watching us right now, which is crazy. Because
203.
Yeah.
Did we increase?
We love you guys.
Yeah,
so
we went
much.
up in viewers. But thank you all so much. We love you all. I'm gonna give everyone a chance to say one final goodbye, and then we'll call it for the night. But I'm just over the moon with joy about being able to be part of this and bring all this to all of you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank
Sarah,
you.
you want to start us off?
Hello, it's me, and goodbye.
Oh yeah, no. Or wait, I guess in goodbye I heard like I don't know what I heard. Yeah, I guess for me, hey, I've loved this adventure with all of you. I mean, I've already said that before. It fulfilled something that needed to happen, and through our combined energies and like energy and universe in general, along with this amazing community, it happened. And I'm very excited for where we will go for the next chapter of all of this. So hey, Markia McCarty signing off for now.
Like all good horror movies, this has a sequel. Stay tuned.
That was a pretty good ending. I mean,
All right, we'll call it there. So
yeah,
I'm gonna
it
say
was-
this for the last time, but we will be clear in 3, 2, 1.
Oh, bye.